Max, I'll start with you. Do you feel like Kirk Cousins has justified this big contract?
Well, from his point of view, yes, but I wouldn't have given it to him. So the answer is from the nothing against Kirk Cousins, but from the point of view of a Vikings fan, no. And again, I want to be very clear. It always seems like on this show you're going after a guy. Kirk Cousins put up big numbers. He's a good quarterback. I'm not disputing that. But when you guarantee someone $85+ million and the guy you let go, who just advanced you in the playoffs, got guaranteed $26 million, you're telling me you're putting a $60 million premium on Kirk Cousins to get you farther than Case Keenum did. Well, let me tell you something. Kirk Cousins played a bad team with a great quarterback, the Packers. Packers aren't good without Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers was hobbled. And yet the Packers really won that game. They should have won that game. That roughing the passer penalty probably cost them the game, and it was utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. That was just a sack. Like, you can't even sack the quarterback anymore. And I'm all for player safety, and Stephen A., I'm constantly saying, hey, players are going to have to adjust to the rules and everything. But what good does this rule do if it's applied this way? That's absurd. It's absurd. And even with that, you couldn't win. By the way, Case Keenum's team was down all game. He rallied them back to win. So I know Kirk Cousins will put up better numbers than Case Keenum. I don't know if he'll advance you any farther, or maybe not even as far. And that's the whole point. Not just to put up a quarterback there who can kind of match the other top quarterbacks' numbers. I know Kirk Cousins can do that, but who can get you farther? Is Kirk Cousins $60 million guaranteed better than Case Keenum? No, he's not. I'd have kept Case Keenum in place.
I disagree with you. I would not have kept Case Keenum. Case Keenum had an exceptional year last year. He completed 67% of his passes, had 22 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions. Obviously was 11-3 as a starter for them. It was very, very impressive. But throughout his career, leading into last year, he had never really eclipsed 60% of his passes in terms of completing 60% of his passes. Last year was an anomaly. It was an aberration. It wasn't the Case Keenum that we've known throughout the years. Kirk Cousins puts up numbers. And if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you would be right if the Minnesota Vikings were devoid of a defense. But what they were saying is a stronger arm, more accuracy passing the football, big numbers. That's Kirk Cousins. Does he win you football games? Obviously not necessarily so, because he was playing with the Redskins and they never won a playoff game in his tenure. But he did have enough big moments. He did put up good numbers, but the Redskins collectively didn't have the kind of team that could sit up there and take you over the hump. The Minnesota Vikings are saying, excuse me, our defense is big time. We've got Dalvin Cook, a potential big time running back. Thielen and Thiggs and those boys can play. And if Kirk Cousins could throw the football, we believe in him long term more so than we believe in Case Keenum. And that's where I side with the Minnesota Vikings. I might have some issues, some trepidation with the numbers, because $84 million guaranteed is $84 million guaranteed, averaging $28 million a year. When I think about that, I'm thinking Tom Brady, I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers, I'm thinking Drew Brees. Kirk Cousins' name doesn't come to mind. But Matthew Stafford is getting those kind of dollars. Matt Ryan is getting those kind of dollars. And so when I look at it from that, oh shit, Jimmy Garoppolo is now getting those kind of dollars. So when I look at it from that standpoint, okay, it falls in line. Now it comes down to comparing him to Case Keenum. And when I look at Kirk Cousins, I see a better option than Case Keenum. Case Keenum was just last year.
Look, I don't even know that I would agree with that. I might like Case Keenum better than Kirk Cousins, in spite of the things you point out.
I do know.
I know the measurables say Kirk Cousins. But when you think of the Vikings, Stephen A., look at that roster up and down. They are in a three-way tie maybe with the Eagles and Rams for the roster you'd most want to have as your team. Like, the Vikings have arguably the best roster in football.
So?
And they're playing a hobbled Aaron Rodgers on a team that otherwise would never sniff the playoffs. And they should have lost the game. They got a gift from the refs, and
I still don't understand what you're trying to say.
My point is, you bring Kirk Cousins in to win those kind of games, and it hasn't made a difference so far. Now, it's very, very early, but so far the returns are in.
What return? They won week one. They lost
team down the stretch.
Hold on. They won week one, and yesterday they lost to a player or tied with a player that you consider the best in the history of football.
A player, and he had a bad leg.
What I'm saying to you, if it was anybody else, do you think that the Minnesota Vikings are tying them?
Look, even after getting the call with that roster and Kirk Cousins putting up those numbers, the fact is they didn't win. And my point is, you're the one making the argument that it's Super Bowl or bust for the Vikings. I'm saying Kirk Cousins got to win a playoff game. He got to win a playoff game.
And I'm saying, no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he's a better option than Case Keenum. That's what I'm saying.
By the way, it's not just in a vacuum. It's for the money. Is he a better option than Case Keenum? I don't think so. And where does Case Keenum go? Case Keenum goes to the place with the GM who says, you know what? Why pay a guy who's not really a top-level quarterback like a top-level quarterback? There
and
should
since
be a
Peyton Manning is gone, what is he? Let's see what John Elway does. Because last time I checked, he drafted Paxton Lynch. All right, he had Case Keenum. All right, and who else did he have? Who else did he have? So when you look at it from that perspective, John Elway is still looking for that quarterback. Let's keep that in mind.
Well, let's see. He rallied him to win this week.
Yeah.
So against Oakland,
This week, both
you want a cookie?
situations look like they worked out.